button. There we go. All right. Again, Drew, where did we finish up with chapter 5? What happened?
The blind beggar died.
Blind beggar. His name was Pew. Pew got run over by some horses. Then what happened? Nothing. That was the end of the chapter? Not. Yeah?
He's going to Dr. Livesey's house.
The Pew is?
No, Jim.
Jim is going to Dr. Livesey's house. He's riding on a horse. Riding with who? Yeah? Mr. Dance. He's the sheriff or supervisor of the region. And they leave Mom at the hamlet. So they're going off down in this direction towards the hamlet. They leave Mom there. Then they're heading on to Dr. Livesey's house. If we think of ourselves in the back of the middle school, that means we go head down to Pizza Hut, leave Mom at Pizza Hut. Now we're riding on a horse down to the Columbian Theater, right? That's our geography idea. The bad guys were up at Cat's Gymnastics on a ship that got out to sea, and they disappeared. They got away. Chapter 6. Page 23, if you're in this book, I have no idea what it is in that one. What is that page? What page is chapter 6? 39, if you borrowed a black book when you walked in, page 39. Or somewhere on your Kindle, iPhone, or whatever app you have. We rode hard all the day till we drew up before Dr. Livesey's door. The house was all dark to the front. Mr. Dance told me to jump down and knock. And Dogger gave me a stirrup to descend by. Dogger is the deputy. The door was opened almost at once by the maid. What? By the maid? What does that tell us immediately? He's got some cash. Dr. Livesey's got some cash. And I don't know if you guys have seen maybe a show called Downton Abbey, where there's a huge house. It's not that big. He's not that rich. He's not a lord like in that. But he's pretty rich. You need to imagine you ride up a long driveway on your horse, get down, there's lots of trees, a manicured lawn, gardens all over the place, flowers everywhere. Of course it's dark. But just imagine a palatial open field of buildings and courtyards and whatnot. Yeah?
My mom watches that.
Your mom watches Downton Abbey? Hey, I watch Downton Abbey. Don't tell me what happens. I haven't gotten to see season 4 or 5. Downton Abbey. Unless you're watching Sesame Street with my daughter, then it's upside Downton Abbey. And everything's upside down. Question.
Are we on chapter 8?
We're on chapter 6. It says VI. One more comment?
Me and my mom, we watched that show. They used to call it Downtown Abbey.
Now you thought it was downtown. I was like, it's not downtown. It's Downton. All right.
Oh, God.
So those Brits talk weird, and some of you have probably noticed there's an extra U sometimes instead of color. It's color, favorite, honor. So it looks a little different, but here we are. We're also in a different place with money and what it looks like. Is Dr. Livesey in? I asked. No, she said. He had come home in the afternoon, but had gone up to the hall to dine and pass the evening with the squire. Oh, he has another building he eats in, and it's got a library in it, and it's got, I imagine the armor and knights in shining armor standing stacked up from the Baroque area and walking down the hall, and you've got to go around, go to another building and find him. Question.
Ivy or VI?
VI. Okay? He was passing the evening with the squire. Oh, we've heard of the squire. He was only the first word of the book. So it's about time we're about to meet him. So there we go, boys, said Mr. Dance. This time, as the distance was short, I did not mount on the horse. I just ran. It's only 30 yards to his other house. And I ran with Dogger's stirrup leather to the lodge gates. Oh, there's another gate to get to that house. And up the long, leafless, moonlit avenue or road to where the white line of all of the hall buildings looked on either hand on the great old gardens. So there's buildings that look in on all these gardens in the middle. Big building, big building, big building, but it's still moonlight, right? It's still nighttime. Here Mr. Dance dismounted, and taking me along with him, was admitted at a word into the house. The servant let us, oh, he's got another servant. The servant led us down a matted passage and showed us at the end into a great library. So here's the hall, and at the end there's these huge wooden doors, and open the door into the huge library. Like, oh, wow. And it was all lined with bookcases and busts on top of them, or statues cut off about right here on top of all the bookshelves. The smell of sweet mahogany. If you've ever watched Anchorman. And there was the squire and Dr. Livesey, where they sat, pipe in hand, on either side of a bright fire. I had never seen the squire so near at hand. He was a tall man, over 6 feet high. Remember, 5'6" was about the average height back then, so a 6-footer like me was huge.
You're 6 feet?
Thank you. He was a tall man, over 6 feet high, broad in proportion. He had a bluff, rough and ready face, all roughened and reddened and lined in his long travels. He's a traveler. He's been all around the world. He's got a red face from windburn and sunburn. He's a weathered-looking guy. His eyebrows were very black, these thick, bushy things, I imagine, and moved readily. And this gave him the look of some temper, that every time he's talking, his eyebrows were going up and down. Not a bad temper, you would say, but quick and high. "Come in, Mr. Dance," says he, very stately and condescending. "Good evening, Dance," says the doctor with a nod, "and good evening to you, friend Jim. What good wind brings you here?" The supervisor stood up straight and stiff and told the story like a lesson, told them from the beginning to the end. And you should have seen how the two gentlemen leaned forward and looked at each other and forgot to smoke in their surprise and interest. And like, these guys were breaking down your house. They destroyed your house. They were looking for something called Flint's Fist. Oh my gosh, this is intense. This is intense. Did they say Flint? When they heard how my mother went back to the inn, Dr. Livesey fairly slapped his thigh, and the squire cried, "Bravo!" and broke his long pipe against the grate. Long before it was done, Mr. Trelawney, that you will remember was the squire's name, Squire Trelawney, had got up from his seat and was striding about the room, and the doctor, as if to hear better, had taken off his powdered wig and sat there, looking very strange indeed, with his own close-cropped black poll. Oh wow, he's not supposed to have black hair, he's supposed to have white hair. Oh, this is weird, he's not wearing his wig. But they're completely dumbfounded by this story. At last, Mr. Dance finished his story. As you know, I like to portray him as a slow talker. "Mr. Dance," said the squire, "you are a very noble fellow. And as for riding down that black, atrocious miscreant, I regard it as an act of virtue, sir, like stepping on a cockroach." Remember, Dance was like, I may get in trouble for killing this guy. I better go tell the truth to the guys above me. And they're like, "No problem, good kill." "This lad Hawkins here is a trump, I perceive. Hawkins, will you ring that bell? Mr. Dance must have some ale. Hey, get the servant over here, give this guy a beer." "And so, Jim, you have the thing they were after, have you?" "Here it is, sir," said I, and I gave him the oilskin packet. The doctor looked it all over, as if his fingers were itching to open it. But instead of doing it, he put it quietly in the pocket of his coat. "Squire," said he, "when Dance has had his ale, he must, of course, be off on his Majesty's service. But I mean to keep Jim Hawkins here to sleep at my house, and with your permission, I propose we should have a cold pie and let him sup. Let him have some dinner." "As you will, Livesey," said the squire. "Hawkins has earned better than the cold pie." So a big pigeon pie, or chicken pot pie, was brought in and put on a side table, and I made for a hearty supper, for I was hungry as a hawk. While Mr. Dance was further complimented and at last dismissed. See what they're doing here? Get out of here, Mr. Dance. "And now, squire, "And now, Livesey," said the squire in the same breath. "One at a time," laughed Dr. Livesey. "You've heard of this Flint, I suppose?" "Heard of him?" cried the squire. "Heard of him, you say? He was the bloodthirstiest buccaneer that sailed. Blackbeard was a child to Flint. The Spaniards were so prodigiously afraid of him that I tell you, sir, I was sometimes proud he was an Englishman." He's an English pirate, and he hates pirates, but man, I'm kind of glad the bad guy's from us. I'm proud that he's the worst pirate out there. "I've seen his topsails with these eyes off Trinidad, and the cowardly son of a rum puncheon that I sailed with put back, sir, I say, into the port of Spain." We learn he travels on the ocean. He's an ocean traveler, the squire. And he's seen the ship that Captain Flint used to travel with. "Well, I've heard of him myself in England," said the doctor, "but the point is, had he money?" "Money?" cried the squire. "Have you heard the story? What were these villains after but money? What did they care for but money? For what would they risk their rascal carcasses for but money?" "That we shall know soon," replied the doctor, "but you are so confoundedly hot-headed and exclamatory that I cannot get a word in. What I want to know is this. Suppose that I have here in my pocket some clue to where Flint buried his treasure. Will the treasure amount to much?" "Amount, sir!" cried the squire. "It will amount to this. If we have the clue you talk about, I fit out a ship in Bristol dock and take you and Hawkins here along, and I'll have the treasure if I search a year." "Very well," said the doctor. "Now then, if Jim is agreeable, we'll open the packet." And he laid it before them on the table. The squire and the bundle was sewn together, and the doctor had to get out his instrument case and cut the stitches with his metal scissors. It contained two things: a book, it says so, a book, and a sealed paper. "First of all, we'll try this book." The squire and I were both peering over his shoulder as he opened it, for Dr. Livesey had kindly motioned me to come round from the other table, from the side table where I had been eating, to enjoy the sport of the search. On the first page there were some scraps of writing, such as a man with a pen in his hand might make for idleness or practice. We've got some of somebody's doodles on this page. One was the same as the tattoo mark where it says, "Billy Bones, his fancy." Then there was, "Mr. W. Bones, mate, no more rum. Off Palm Key, he got it." And some other snatches, mostly single words and unintelligible. I could not help wondering who it was that got it and what it was that he got. A knife in his back, as like as not. "Not much instruction there," said Dr. Livesey as he passed on. But the next 10 or 12 pages were filled with a curious series of entries. There was a date at one end of each of the lines, and then there was a sum of money, and at the other end was a sum of money, as in common account books or checkbooks. But instead of explanatory writing, only a varying number of crosses between the two. For example, on the 12th of June, 1745, for instance, a sum of £70 had plainly become due to someone, and there was nothing but 6 crosses to explain the cause. In a few cases, to be sure, the name of a place would be added as "off Caracas," or a mere entry of latitude and longitude as 62 minutes, or 62 degrees, 17 minutes, 20 seconds, 90 degrees, 2 minutes, 40 seconds. The record lasted over nearly 20 years. The amount of the separate entries growing larger as time went on, and at the end, a grand total had been made out of after 5 or 6 wrong additions, and these words appended, Bones's pile. I can't make head or tails of this, said Dr. Livesey. The thing is clear as noonday, cried the squire. This is the Black-Hearted Hound's account book. These crosses stand for the names of ships or towns that they sank or plundered. The sums of the scoundrel's share. And where he feared an ambiguity, you see, he added something clearer, like off Caracas now, you see. Here was some unhappy vessel boarded off the coast. God help the poor souls that manned her. Coral, long ago. Coral? They've been sunk to the bottom of the sea and overtaken by the coral. It's his account book. Right, said the doctor. See what it is to be a traveler. Right. And the amounts increase, you see, as he rose in rank. Everything he ever made as a pirate, he wrote it down. There was little else in the volume, but a few bearings of places noted in the blank leaves toward the end. A table for reducing French, English, and Spanish monies to a common value. You've got yen, you've got lira, you've got dollars, pounds. You've got to have a way to translate them all. If only Jim's mom would have known that, they might have gotten out of there a little bit faster the night before, or that same night, because she only knew how to count the guineas, right? Thrifty man, cried the doctor. He wasn't the one to be cheated. And now, for the other. The paper had been sealed in several places with a thimble by way of seal. The very thimble, perhaps, that I had found in the captain's pocket. The doctor opened the seals with great care, and then there fell out a map of an island with latitude and longitude, soundings, names of hills, bays, and inlets, and every particular that would be needed to bring a ship to a safe anchorage upon its shores. It was about 9 miles long and 5 miles across, shaped, you might say, like a fat dragon standing up, and had 2 fine landlocked harbors and a hill in the center part marked the Spyglass. What's a spyglass again?
It's like a telescope.
Telescope. There's a telescope mountain in the middle of it. Set Spyglass Hill. There were several editions of a later date, but above all, 3 crosses of red ink. 2 on the north part of the island, 1 in the southwest. And beside this last, in the same red ink, and in a small, neat hand, very different from the captain's tawdry characters, Billy Bones's characters, these words: Book of treasure, here. Over on the back, the same hand had written this further information: Tall tree, Spyglass shoulder, bearing point to the northeast. Skeleton Island, east-southeast, and by east, 10 feet. The bar silver is North Cache. You can find it by the end of the east hummock, 10 fathoms south of the Black Crag with the face on it. The arms are easy found in the sand hill at north point of the North Inlet Cape, bearing east and a quarter north. J. F. What was that?
John.
John Flint. That was all. As brief as it was, and to me, incomprehensible. I have no idea what this is saying at all. It filled the squire and Dr. Livesey with delight. Livesey! You will give up this wretched practice at once! Tomorrow I start for Bristol. In 3 weeks' time, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 10 days, we'll have the best ship, sir, and the choicest crew in England. Hawkins, he shall come as cabin boy. You'll make a famous cabin boy, Hawkins. You, Livesey, are ship's doctor. I am admiral. We'll take Redruth, Joyce, and Hunter, squire's servants. We'll have favorable winds, a quick passage, and not the least difficulty in finding the spot, and money to eat, to roll in, to play duck and drink with ever after. Trelawney, said the doctor, I'll go with you. And I'll go bail for it. So will Jim, and be a credit to the undertaking. There's only one man I'm afraid of. And who's that? cried the squire. Name of the dog, sir. You, replied the doctor. For you cannot hold your tongue. We are not the only men who know of this paper. These fellows who attacked the inn tonight, bold, desperate blades, for to be sure. And the rest who stayed aboard that lugger, and more, I dare say, not far off, one and all, through thick and thin, bound that they'll get that money. We must none of us go alone till we get to sea. Jim and I shall stick together in the meanwhile. You take Joyce and Hunter when you ride to Bristol, and from first to last, not one of us must breathe a word of what we've found. Livesey, returned the squire, you're always in the right of it. I'll be as silent as the grave. All right. Miss Wells, can you pass these out for me? What you're going to be getting now is some information on our project starting today, and it's due Monday when you come to class. Due Monday. Here's the problem. We've got 3 guys, Jim, Trelawney, and Dr. Livesey. They're loaded, right? But you know what the problem is? They don't have cash. All their money is tied up in their land, their crops, their practice. They don't just have a bank account with thousands of dollars, okay? And they need cash. They don't want this to be on the books. They want cash. So where do you get cash? Somebody's got to loan you the money. You got to get the money from somewhere to buy a boat, to hire a crew. That's like 20 guys. You got to buy all the grog we talked about before, the rum, the water, the food. You got to pay everybody. So, the limes, the meat, where are you going to get this money from? That's what I want to talk to you about right now. We're going to work together to solve this problem. You need, for Monday, $20,000.
What? Real money?
$20,000.
Real money.
I'm the bank. I've got your cash. I'm not giving you a dime unless you persuade me to give you the money. And the way you persuade me to give you the money is by writing to the correct audience. Some of you are going to be writing as Dr. Livesey to the King of England to get some cash, 10 grand. Some of you will be writing to the merchants of the West Indies as Squire Trelawney. And the rest of you are going to be writing as Jim Hawkins to the settlers. And what I want to do for you is show you an example of a bad writing and a good writing. And then look on the back of the paper to see what are things you need to think about for your audience. We have 3 youth acting as someone else, writing to a different audience than somebody else. And you will be trioed up. I think I have an extra person in here. You might be a 4th person in a group where you're going to be writing, and one of you is Jim for your group, one of you is Squire, and one of you is the King. And if you don't all do your job and work it out and do your assignment, your group can't purchase what they need for the trip. Does that make sense? Because you need 20 grand. Jim's trying to get 4. Squire Trelawney's trying to get 6. Dr. Livesey then has to get 10. You need 20 in order for it to play the game on Monday, where you get your cash and you actually get to shop and figure out what kind of boat you're going to buy, what kind of guns you want to take, what kind of crew you're going to hire. All right? So let's take a look at this assignment. Again, I want to make sure I start now. Now that we know it's Jim Hawkins. Ladies, every year I have 10 or 15 gals who start writing as Jim Hawkins. Or as Jane Hawkins, not Jim Hawkins. They're like, it's like, oh, there's no boys. No, it's all boys. I want a girl. Okay, we'll take Jane along. Squire Trelawney and Dr. Livesey, they must find the money to purchase your ship, crew, and supplies in order to travel to Treasure Island. How do you raise the money? Well, you have to get people with money to invest. You will need to follow the guidelines below for different types of people. Some will give you more than others, but you need all their help to make it. Your group must write 3 persuasive essays in order to raise the necessary doubloons. When complete, a neighboring bank, another team member, must check off the necessary places. And that's what Mrs. Wells is going to pass out to you now. This is the checklist that someone else who's also Jim or also Squire or also Dr. Livesey has to read through and check off and make sure you did all of these. All right? She's going to hand those out while I keep talking about this. They must check off the necessary pieces in order to give you credits, and vice versa. You will be receiving another Treasure Seekers letter and verify its validity. This isn't a competition, it's a verification. Again, audience 1 is King George. He'll give you 10,000 doubloons if you get that checklist taken care of. Audience 2, merchants or businessmen of the West Indies. And third, for 4,000, new settlers, people who are trying to emigrate out of England and to the New World, which is what was going on at this time, right? Well, let me show you an example of a bad letter and a good letter. This paragraph should be in letter form. Dear King George, or dear settlers, or dear, what's the other one? Merchants. Here's the no-no version. King Midas, you guys remember reading about him, the guy whenever he touched anything it turned to gold. King Midas, your highness, can we get some money? I used to work for the government, so you can trust me. Please hear me out. There's a new unclaimed island we think you'd be interested. There's a lot of money to be made. All we want to do is go there and make sure it's livable and worth your time to take it. Now, we know that the French will want it too, so let's keep it on the DL. It would probably be cheaper too, so how about you hook us up with some cash, like 10 grand, and we'll do this without people knowing. Take this letter as promised that we won't tell anybody about it. We'll do all the work, and you get all the credit. So what do you think? What's interesting is, this bad example gets a check mark for all of them. It greets the audience, introduces the character, tells the audience what you want, tells the audience how it will benefit them, gives the audience a reason of why they have to act now, asks the audience for a specific amount of money. It's easy to read and it's grammatically correct, right? But it's in the wrong voice. It's in the wrong voice. It needs to be formal writing, not casual, right? Here's how Dr. Livesey would write. It needs to be in his voice. King George, your highness, I submit before you a great prospect. I, Dr. Livesey, am a retired doctor and current magistrate, longing for adventure after my career serving our beloved England, and would be honored to serve her once again. Please consider this request in earnest. There is a new land that has been found, and we understand your longing for its claim. We're already working with people who would want to live and work this island. Think of the taxes you can generate. Our goal is to place the flag of Britain upon this isle, but only after its location is verified, it is surveyed, and deemed livable. Now, you and I both know that the French would be hearing of our mission if it were officially commissioned by your lordship. What if instead you took this letter oath as our word, and you financed our trip to this dangerous and unknown place? We're only asking a mere £5,000, which is 10,000 doubloons. Please allow us this honor of staking this claim for England. Think about it. Did he greet the audience? Did he introduce his character? Tell the audience what you want? Tell them how they will benefit? Give them the reason why they have to act now? Ask the audience for a specific amount of money. It's easy to read, and spelling and grammar are correct. But on the back, that's what I want to look at here, is what is it they need to hear? And those of you who are listening from the 5th and 6th period, you're doing this too. What are the things that these people need to hear? First of all, I want to show you, you need to write down on your you need to circle which is your audience right now. This is group 1 from 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, all right? And then group 8 does have 4 people in it. So Seth, you're also writing to settlers, all right? So find your name, and you're going to be either writing to the king, writing to merchants, or writing to settlers. So go ahead and find your name. Kings are Chris, Nick, Emma, Emily, Victoria, Jacob, Casey, and Austin. Merchants are Sydney, Sham, Drew, Steve, Willow, Darby, Hannah, and Jeremiah. Settlers are Georgia, Kaylin, Bianca, Caden, Elizabeth, Lexi, Nick, Stephen, and Seth. All right? And 5th and 6th period, you'll have a list to take a look at. All right. On the back, for each person here, I need you to write down what people say, because they're here. I'm doing this to help you. First of all, your audience is who are we writing to changes everything. Each of these letters should have different voice and reason. Think about what your audience would want. Why should they want to help you get a mystery island? What would they get out of it? First of all, what are some things for those of you who are the king? What would the king get out of it? Yeah? No, you cannot tell him about the island. You can't tell anybody about it. Because what happens if the king knows you have treasure there? He sends his own guys. You cannot mention the treasure. What might the king want?
I was asking if you could say, like, could you say something like that it's a land that is unknown to anybody else?
Yeah, it's unknown to anybody else, and that's what that in the option I showed you, it was like, oh, you could lay claim to this land. What do you think?
Didn't it say like in the letters it said tax, you should get taxes?
Oh, it could generate taxes, so write that down. It could generate taxes. CJ?
You could get new land for England.
Yeah, new land to claim for England. Anything else? Yeah?
If it's livable, then people might not want to move to Bermuda.
Well, that might be good for the settlers, right? The settlers, it could be new land for settlers to go to. And it may help him to settle, to build a colony, is what you're trying to say, right? So he could build a colony, and for the settlers, it could be a new beginning. What are some other things why people would want to know in the 1700s about a new island? Either the settlers or merchants, or the king. Yep.
If they're merchants and all the settlers are going there, then they could just set up shops there and all the settlers would buy goods.
Good. New business opportunities, right? People are settling there. You want to know who survived the great expansion of the American West? The business owners. Because all the other people were coming in and spending their money, and then those people were able to live and build their houses. And that's why all these places were, all the small towns were built up by the town businessmen. The businessmen survived. What else? What might settlers do in a new land?
Big house.
Okay, so there's probably goods there to build a home. What else?
Farm?
They could farm there. Good, so you might want to write that down. What else?
They could have more land than they do now.
Yeah, they could have even more land because nobody's claimed it yet. Do you guys know why the West Indies were so important to England? For the king, there's military advantage, right? Maybe a fort could go there. For the merchants, there was things called sugarcane, tea, coffee, all these things you could grow because of those tropical islands. So different types of things to sell. Also, it's about trade routes. If it's on a good trade route, people can stop there and the merchants can sell things to the travelers that are passing through. So they could have shops. Good, you're thinking about the audience. You can come up with some more, but at least now you have a baseline, right, Caden? You've got a baseline of some things of what would they get out of it. If you think of another one as we're going that doesn't hurt my feelings, but I want to move on and make sure we get through it. Think about what your audience is concerned about. They need to hear, what do they need to hear so they can trust you? Guess what, people? I'm having you deceive people, which I know you're good at. But you can't tip your hand. You have to build faith with ethos and pathos. You need to show that you're worth something. What did you guys see in the letter from Dr. Livesey to the king that showed him who? You can trust me. I'm somebody you can trust. Even though I'm not someone you can trust, because I'm trying to make millions of dollars.
Been a doctor.
Okay, I've been a doctor. Good. What else? Jake.
I've served, he said, I'm a retired doctor and current magistrate, and he said that he served his great country of England.
Yeah, he served in the past in the military, and he's currently paid by the government to dispense justice. He's a judge. Somebody you can trust, sir. I love my country. You can trust me for about 6 more days. What about the settlers? What do the settlers need to hear from Jim that they can trust Jim? What do you think?
I don't know.
Okay. Willow?
His family once settled, or you could talk about the hotel and about how they settled there.
Okay, so we've had to settle before, so I know what to look for. But what else about Jim, too? Yeah?
That we are sort of, that we're not so different from each other because we have been through the same kind of stuff.
Okay. Like, what is he going through right now that they might connect with? He lost his dad. Good. Billy Bones came to my house and and all these guys ruined our business, right? So we're looking to find a new place to live because we're ruined. And people are like, oh, it's true. He probably is looking to find a new place to go, right? Because my mom and my life are ruined because of what happened in the end. We don't have enough money to restore it. And then you also get a little pathos of people feeling sorry for you, right? What else?
Wasn't it telling them that a pirate went to your inn and destroyed it, and they're looking for the treasure on that island to make them not want to go?
Just tell them that.
They're not coming with, they're giving you money. They're giving you money. They think that you need to convince them, I'm trying to start a new life somewhere, and I'm going on this expedition, and I want to make sure that people like me benefit from this new opportunity, right? We're trying to sell them on this. Settlers, or merchants. What do the merchants need to hear from Squire Trelawney that would make them trust Squire? Darby?
There could be more products that they could sell, make more money.
But what would they need to know? That's up here. That's true, but that's up here under what they'll get out of it. What do they need to hear from Squire so they'll trust him?
That, I don't know.
We're kind of in the same boat, Kaylin?
That after we find the land and explore it, you and all the other merchants can come over there and pretty much just take what you need and sell it.
Well, that's again what they'll get out of it. Why would they trust that Squire's telling the truth? What about him gives him ethos or credibility?
That he has been a traveler for a long time, so since he's gone, he has experience.
From the text, right? Ethos is text. From the text, we know he's a traveler. He knows the West Indies. He knows the oceans. He's been serving England, and he's seen pirate ships. He knows the trade winds. He knows the trade routes. I promise this is a place that's perfect for you. All you need is the money and you're going to run, right? You just got to earn the trust. You got to find, there's a sucker born every minute, but you've got to show a little bit of truth, in order to get what you want. It's a half-truth. Yeah.
Or since he's a traveler, he could tell them that, And he could also tell them that he can help them find resources that like aren't poisonous and stuff.
I know what I'm looking for in a place like this. There's some bad things. I can filter out the bad and say, hey, this is a bad choice or it's a good choice. Good. Also, some of these, they might need to know, hey, I'll put up some of my land to pay you back. Some security. Have you ever heard of that before? Where you put up like a deposit? Because it's not that they don't have the money, they don't have the cash. And so you can say, hey, Squire's got to have some money. He's like low royalty. We know that for the king, hey, king, you can trust me. I'll put my house up as collateral. I'll put up my dining hall as collateral. I just need the cash now. All right? So sometimes people need to know that there's a backup plan in case they're going to get scammed.
Could that be what Dr. Livesey has too?
That Dr. Livesey and Squire, I think you both could do that. Last is the thesis statement. You need to say in one sentence what it is you want to do. And so your goal in writing it to these different people is you need to tell them everything except about the treasure. So you just need today to write that thesis statement of, dear settlers, I'm writing you in order to, and that one sentence that explains the paragraph, and then your job, it's a best first copy. If you write a big bunch of gobbledygook, you'll have to rewrite it. But I encourage you, if you are working on it and it looks pretty good, I'll take it. I encourage you, though, to do what we normally do, which is a rough draft, and then map it up. But we're not going to do that in class. It's due on Monday when you come to class. If you didn't do your homework, you're behind, and your group's behind. Don't let them down. Yeah?
So we're doing our rough draft and our final draft?
Everything is due Monday. And if you can do a solid, if you want to bubble map it out, and then it's your writing process, and it's due Monday. Any questions about the assignment? And I want to even if you think it's a weird question, because I want to make sure it fits in 6th period. No, what's that?
For the,
You only have to write the thesis statement for your person.
okay, but do we have to, like, are we like completely lying on that one, telling you what we're going for?
Well, it's a half-truth. It's a half-truth. You're going, but yeah, it's a half-truth that you're going to an island. The false part is, it's so that we can map out this island or find stuff out about it. Yeah. False precept. Yes?
What are the people that are saying, like, who's King George again? Like, what person in the book is King George?
King George is just the king at the time.
No, but like, who's talking to
Oh, Dr. Livesey talks to King George. Good question. Squire Trelawney talks to the merchants. And Jim talks to the settlers. Any other questions? Yeah.
Can you put those things that we have again, please?
The teammates?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Just so you know, that's your group when you come to class on Monday. 5th and 6th period, you'll have yours after the video.